Today's conversation is one I think a lot of women and the men who care about them need to hear. We're talking about the tug of war many divorced women feel between masculine and feminine energy. After divorce, especially when you've had to step up, protect your kids, pay the bills, and make every decision alone, it can be incredibly hard to shift gears into softness, vulnerability, and emotional intimacy when a new relationship comes along. And this independence, while it's powerful, it can sometimes make new relationships more complicated. We're joined by Jessica Kastner, an author and podcaster known for speaking boldly, lovingly, and with refreshing honesty about women's issues, faith, and life after hardship. Together, we're going to unpack what it means to live in both strength and softness and how women can navigate relationships without giving up who they are designed to be. This one's for every strong woman who ever's wondered, how do I let someone in without losing myself? Let's dive in. Jessica, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Todd. I'm excited to talk. Thanks for having me.
Well, let's start with identifying this energy shift post-divorce. Did you experience this? What is this? How is this moving from feminine to masculine or masculine and feminine at the same time? Talk about that in your life.
Sure. So full disclosure, I am a ultra girly girl operating in her feminine. So I have not encountered this as anyone who's watched me try to clear the gutters or do anything, take out the petroleum tank of the fire table. So I am doing the things I'm forced to do practically because there is no man in the house anymore. But I thankfully, through the Lord's grace and help, have not fallen into this very trending phenomenon, honestly, of women operating in their masculine or maybe taking on more of a masculine energy than they had before when they were married. And I've seen it so much in my current circle of friends. And also just as, you know, I have a podcast dealing with divorce issues or life after divorce. So I'm very steeped in all the algorithms on Instagram and all the social media channels. It's a thing where girl boss, I don't need no man, be your own hero, that kind of thing. That's very relevant. So I think what we have to do first is talk about what we believe it means. What's the definition of operating in your masculine? Because you can, for example, I'm the head of my house now. I pay all the bills. I take out the garbage, but you can do all those things without operating your masculine. So I think when you're operating in your masculine as a woman, I think a lot of women are prone to this, especially after divorce, because they've been hurt. A lot of women feel abandoned or let down or betrayed. So they put up a wall, and it's a self-protective wall of, I'm never going to let a man in. What do I need a man for? Now I could pay the bills, do all these things, raise my kids. Why would I subject myself to being under a man? And it gets tricky in Christian culture. We'll talk separately in that, but just as a big picture, I think that's why. And to me, when I see that, because I have people in my life that I would say are doing this right now, operating their masculine, and they're aware of it. We talk openly about it. I think it's more of a cry for help than anything. So I don't want to minimize someone's pain or finger point or blame why a woman does that. I think there's real heart reasons. I don't think any woman actually wants to operate in their masculine. It's not fun. So I think it's a cry for help. And I think it's just a signal that you haven't received healing yet. I think it's just a sign that you're still needing to let the Lord heal you and walk through the post-divorce pain. Because I feel like I'm going on and on. I don't know if you want to interject because I'll
No. This is great because I was surprised you're landing here because I was going to try to play devil's advocate and say I agree with that. Like every time I go on a dating app, which I try not to do anymore, but I've done it plenty over 7 years.
Yes.
And yeah, we all go through the yo-yo of on, off. I'm lonely. This is garbage.
We'll see when Christmas comes.
Yeah. But I see this phenomenon happening all the time where people use the word independent. And I'm like, men don't put we're independent. It's why is the woman putting independent? And then it's this attitude of you better fit in my life, my world I've created, or else I'm not going to let you in. I'm like, that feels so unhealthy that I think, man, I don't think you're healed yet. That's what I thought. And I wasn't sure I was right, but that's how I feel about it.
Yeah. Because I was thinking about it. It's like, we all know what it's like to army crawl out of divorce, still on flames. If you really, this is one of my biggest testimonies post-divorce is I have learned the real meaning of letting God be my refuge. Like I'm stuck in Psalms. I can't get out of it. I just feel like I'm almost scared. It's been so good for my heart. So I'm like, I'm not leaving Psalms, but it's like, oh, God is our refuge. We all hear that. It's such a very well-known verse, but it became more of like a verb than a noun for me, where every day God is my protector. God is my provider. God's my husband now. God's the one I'm going for advice and guidance. I have no one. I'm completely alone. And I've never had that before. So it's like, I can't stop talking about it. So I feel like after you come out of divorce, no matter what the reasons, if you were cheated on, if you were left, even if you were abused, I believe Jesus is the ultimate healer. I believe with enough time, and if you let him, and if you're vulnerable and have a deeper intimacy with the Lord, he can make you whole and heal and be ready for a future relationship. But I think it takes sometimes a long time. And I think that's hard to do. Like I never learned to sit and cry with the Lord till this most recent divorce. Like I just, none about, blah, blah, blah.
I love this. And I thought this was going to be the last 10 minutes of our conversation, but I'm going to move it right here. You keep going to the end because you're giving you have a wise lens on all this. I believe you landed on the answer. And the answer is if you don't have this right, you're not going to have this right.
Yeah.
And I think, golly, this is where I have a saying that I stole: thoughts disentangle themselves over the lips and through the fingertips. So I'm about ready to just sort of let something that's very tangled come out. This idea that women who I believe, golly, this is so controversial. I don't want to land on it yet.
Censoring here, Todd. This is UnYoked living. We don't do that.
I know. All right. So I feel like women have an easier time being subservient to Christ's lordship than sometimes men do, because we have the pull it up by our bootstraps American John Wayne attitude.
Makes sense.
And so sometimes we're looking for like, okay, I got my relationship with God, but I'm just looking for my partner.
So true.
And it took me a long time to realize, wait a minute, I'm not being subservient to the Lord. Why would I want to lead or be in partnership with somebody who's until I have that correct. Totally. Once I sort of got that, then it rolled into this idea of like, okay, two people could get married if three things are true. If you both love the Lord, you both are great communicators, and you both know what a covenant is, right?
I love that. I heard you say in another episode, I'm like, oh, I'm trying to get down, because you can't argue with that.
I don't think it's arguable, but here's where I've landed the plane. I thought we were going to land the plane on it later. So if you're in a healthy spot with your relationship with Christ, and they are, well, then why do we put all these criteria on all this other stuff? Like, he's not 6 foot.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have hair.
Yeah.
I want somebody who has more money or equal money to me. Well, why do we put all the other stuff on there too? Doesn't it complicate things?
Well, because your heart's not. So I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I have never done that, because I think when you just love Jesus, you want someone like Jesus. Like you just like, I don't know if he was good looking or tall. I've heard people say he wasn't. So it's like, or what they make, I think I feel like when you want, and we can touch on this later, because I feel like it really matters, the conversation of after divorce, what's the purpose of getting married again? What's your goal? Like, honestly. And I feel like, especially post-divorce, most of us are done procreating. Thank God. Most of us are financially, we're more, stable in our career. So usually we're self-sufficient in that way. So shouldn't it just be that you just want a good, amazing heart, like humble, gentleness, kindness? Isn't that what we should both want? So it's like, it sounds so funny. It was like, I don't need a man. Well, what is a man in your eyes? Or if I don't need a wife, like I've been.
Oh, what a great line. What is a man? I don't need a man. Well, then what's a man?
Like,
what's your definition of a man?
Human? Because even Adam, are we better than Adam? Even God said it's not good for man to be alone. And I'm not putting down, I think marriage is a calling, and it's a covenant with the Lord. And it's not putting down anyone that it really doesn't feel called to marriage anymore, because I don't think they're wounded or broken or anything. But I think in general, most people are better and their highest selves are achieved with another Christ loving person. I just do. I feel like if you look through the Bible, I mean, there's so much that talks about it, right? So it's like, really the question is, if you don't need a man, well, what's your vision of marriage then? I think it's broken then, right? And I think just because we were talking earlier about being subservient, man of head of household, and when you're in Christian marriages, I think there's another problem that develops where if you were a Christian woman and you got married, say in your 20s, and you had kids, a lot of Christian women were stay-at-home moms. There's a huge homeschooling community in the Christian culture, and I think it's great. I stayed home. I left my job for 5 years. Was blessed to be able to do it because I wanted to be home with my kids. Then I went back to my career, but a lot of women don't. So you're, for lack of a better word, dependent on your spouse. And then there's the hyper attention focus, I think, in Christian culture in the 90s and 2000 to the Ephesians 5:22. Man is the head of the household. Wives, submit to your husband as you do the Lord. And there's never enough focus as men, love your wives as Christ loved the church, right? So I feel like we were raised, a lot of friends so I know this from personal experience. You had to obey your husband. You had to ask him for money. You had no autonomy. You raised your kids however your husband said to raise your kids. Your whole world was supporting and being there for your husband, which is beautiful and truthful, but I don't think it's the whole. I think we are balanced. Yes. So I think when that's out of balance, those women kind of out of marriage, now they have autonomy. Now they have their full, they're getting to know themselves sometimes for the first time, and they can do what they want, quote unquote. So I think that's another element where I have a friend who's terrified. She was in a Christian marriage and went south. And now she's like, the thought of like marrying a Christian guy who now she has to listen to after 20 years of, I think it just being off balance, off kilter, that's terrifying. So it's like, that's a whole nother element in the Christian world.
You're 100% right. And it's sort of like people who have a bad relationship with their father, they sometimes project that on that's what God is. Totally. I think a lot of women are like, well, I don't like men because I don't like the last one. Totally. And it's like, well, doesn't mean the next guy is that one. But yeah, I see. I know women don't want to date Christian men either, but they're good Christians. They're like, I'm sick of Christian men. And I get it.
It's so sad. But it's like,
so sad.
Does that really hold up? I feel like you could tell yourself for a little while, but it's like, there's a lot of benefit that comes from being a Christian man.
Well,
even if one, I don't know.
Why would you want to be unequally yoked? Well, we're throwing a lot of layers. I'm going to throw one more before we even pretend to solve anything. But there is a stat. I don't know if you've heard this before, but I did look it up. So this is not just a wives' tale. But you know how, men and women score each other, 1 to 10, she's a 10 or whatever. But I'm going to say y'all. I'm going to throw y'all a little bit.
I'm in Connecticut, so I'll try.
Women in America, y'all score men lower on average on 1 to 10. And your average you have far lower scores than men do. Men score a higher average when we score women, and we have lower scores. So you guys are brutal. And so when you start thinking back to your what's a man, forget being a Christian for a minute. I think women look at men and y'all, and statistics say most of y'all are aiming at the same guys because you're fitting the criteria. Oh, he's wealthy, he's tall, he's this, he's that, whatever it is. And y'all score people higher, which means you're throwing people in the trash. Yes. Of who to aim at.
I see it all the time. And it's kind of amazing to me. So I have a lot of friends, so I never feel bad. Like no one's going to know who I'm talking about, but it's like, some people are like, they want 6'1", he has to make this many figures, has to be in shape, can't even have a little belly, can't drink at all. And I'm like thinking about her life, who, she's who I love, but it's like, wow, like I feel like I have the opposite where I've like almost had to like raise my standards. I feel like I've dealt with like self-worth and value and insecurity. So I'm like always like, I wish I had a tinge of that through my life, because I was like, whatever, look at him, God will fix him. And so I don't know why that is. Sometimes I'm like, is it a false self-protection where you're just like, that's your reason you can't find anyone, or that's why you're afraid of dating someone, is because your standards are so high because you're, God's princess. That's interesting. And I don't have an answer of why they do that, but I see it for sure.
Yeah. So that's a great point. It could be a little bit of, it gives me an excuse.
Totally.
Or it just could be, the article I read assumed this. That is, women feel more judged with their beauty and whatever, and they're just reflecting that back on the other side. Like, oh, well, if we're going to be judged, well, I'm going to start judging you back.
I could see that. I definitely could see that.
I think some women, when it comes to church or Christianity, when they set their standards, forget the real world where there's, your looks or how much money you make. But when it comes to a believer looking for a healthy believer, what is that criteria? This may be a little bit of a rabbit trail, but is it somebody, I know that you would say probably has a healthy relationship with the Lord, but what does that fruit look like? Is it church attendance? Is it a healthy conversation? It's more than just saying they're a Christian.
Don't get me
what
started.
Does that look like?
Don't get me started. I just wrote a blog maybe 6 months ago. I was like, ladies, just because they call themselves a Christian, go to church, have a Bible. Heck, I dated someone who was like a worship leader. If they don't act like Jesus, if you don't see the qualities, if they're you could have, I feel like I dated a Christian narcissist once. Cause you know why? Just because we're saved doesn't mean we're whole. You could be, I think we don't know that. Like, I think so many people are like, oh yeah, I said the prayer, I go to church, and they could very well be a real born again Christian, right. But it should take more than that. If you're really dead, if the Lord is the number one part of your life, you're going to know. I don't think any real, true Jesus loving woman is going to be fulfilled by someone that's at least, you don't have to be higher. We could talk about being equal yoked later, but at least on the same page, at least have the same hunger. That's my thing. It's like, if there's no hunger, I want to talk about, oh my gosh, I think I just heard this from the Lord. You have to have someone to share that with. That should be the number one goal, especially after divorce. If you don't want more kids, if you're, you don't really need anything, you just want companionship. Well, shouldn't that be the number one thing you want to connect over? And so it's amazing to me, the number of gentlemen I have dated or gotten to know that seem Christian, but really, angry, kicking the dog. Like, I just feel like, what's going on? So yeah, it's so disheartening.
And it feels like there's a couple of rabbit trails we could take, because that's sort of one of them. That if you are looking for someone to be in your life, a yoked partner that loves the Lord, like that has to be the first thing.
That should be the number one. When you're scrolling through the app, so you're trying to get set up, that should be the question you're asking the friends that are trying to set you up, or if you're learning about someone in some other way, right? Like, What is their heart like? Because that solves so many. I listened to another episode of yours where it's like, that covers a multitude of sins. If someone loves the Lord, they're going to be forgiving. They're going to be merciful. They're going to hopefully not be completely self-absorbed. They're going to care and be kind and humble. Humble and kind are my two favorite qualities. And it's amazing. And that's not to say we're perfect. Like sanctification, the process of refining our soul to be more like Jesus, is a lifelong thing. So I think the pendulum can swing too far. We're like, oh, he has to know, he has to have a biblical degree, or he has to be in ministry. And, you could go too far with anything. But I think in general, it is amazing to me. And I have Christian friends that are real born again believers that would and have, and some are dating a non-Christian. And I have been guilty in the past. It's called missionary dating. I've given it up, but I was amazing. I think I had a conversion in there, but it doesn't work.
Yeah, it's not. God doesn't call us. That's the only ministry God does not call us into. Like he did never ask anybody to date to share the gospel.
Yeah,
I've heard that a couple times.
I know. And that's the beauty of getting older. The beauty of like severed relationships. It takes a toll on your spirit, but you learn, right? You're like, I am not going to go back there. I'm not. Thank God I have. Now I know. So it is fascinating the criteria that we have, men and women, Christian and non-Christian, for seeking that one person that you're going to spend the rest of your life with and dedicate, especially if you're not dating for fun. I don't even know who has time to date for fun. For me, it's like, it has to be a purpose. Like I have, you have friends, you have hobbies. So that always amazes me. It's like, wow, you're on a mission to find the one, and he's,
and then you got time, to mess around. I want to back up 5 minutes in the conversation for the women that are listening that have the word independent in their dating bio, or they use that. Not that I'm the litmus test here. Like, it's not like I'm a spiritual man and here's what I'm telling you. Yeah. But I have talked to enough men that when we see that independent thing, we run, we swipe left, because it's scary.
Yeah.
And as a Christian, when you hear everything you just said that sounded very mature thinking, then that's what we're looking for. I'm looking for somebody who says, I want a man in my life because I want to be yoked as I travel through life. What's the phrase? Joys are doubled and burdens are halved, right? When you have a partner.
Yeah. Right.
You're looking for that, to someone to be with. Maybe we're not procreating anymore based on age, or whether we even want to, or even you can. But you still can build this life together. So the second somebody says, you better be this way, you better fit in my life or else you're not there. Well, then why would somebody who's healthy ever swipe right on you?
That's a
Like
red
you're
flag.
only
It
going to
should
get
be a red flag.
unhealthy people
Right.
matching you, right?
Right. Because we all like to be, so the definition of independence in an unhealthy way, like even if you're married, is that I don't need you at all. Like in marriage, it'd be like people can be independent. And that's why I think the downfall of marriage happens. It's like you're operating like you're single, you're emotionally or practically detached. But then there's codependence where you need that person. No one wants that. No one's like, oh, I can't function. Life's not worth living if I don't have a man or a woman. But then interdependence, that's the goal. Because I feel like I just think it's innate. Like our brains are different. Men or women, we're good and we thrive at different things. So I feel like it's almost unnatural to be like, oh, I'm dependent. I'm everything. I'm all. It's just so clearly, transparently broken. Like that logically, just scientifically, that doesn't even make sense. Where interdependence is you have the same worth and you're choosing to lean on each other, but you're also respectful and mutually have separate lives, but you work together, right? So yeah, I feel like if I were a man, that would be like a turnoff because it's like, well, then you're minimalized. Like you're just someone coming along like an accessory, and God doesn't want that. You're a human being. So I don't even, again, that's with the healing, because I know Christian women can do that and operate and put that out there, but they're just on their healing journey still.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. It feels like, well, then what do you want me for? Is it money? Is it to have a +1 at your next event? What do you want? Marriage is inconvenient. Relationships are inconvenient. They're sacrificial by nature. So
I know.
When you're telling me I'm not willing to sacrifice.
And here's what's funny. If you're a man and a woman's like, well, if you fit into my life, this is my time, if you do it my way. But we still want a man to be alpha and take over and make a plan and take care of us and pay the bills. And like, that's what women want. So how does that even make sense? If you're a guy, you're like, oh, okay, I guess I'll take you on vacation.
Yeah, what do they want?
It's like, doesn't work, right? So
it does not even logically work. So let's talk about this phenomenon. Part of the reason I'm so interested, one, I just have an inquisitive mind anyway, but I think after 7 years of dating, I ran into enough frustrations of why relationships weren't working. So I saw this phenomenon. I noticed I didn't like the independence thing, but then I started thinking, okay, maybe there's a cultural phenomenon going on and I'm just in the middle of that phenomenon. And it's not me and this person, like we're both living in this situation. And so part of my thing here, besides agreeing with you that they're not healed and maybe don't have the right life lens on, I do believe that us living in an affluent culture is a giant problem. Because when you live in a world where you get what you want and you create the life that you want and you're encouraged to, well, then if you can pay your own bills and you don't, as a woman, like let's back up 2,000 years ago where people can be told, here's your husband. And you're like, you may cry yourself to sleep, but after a while you end up loving them.
It usually works. Arranged marriages have a higher percentage of happiness.
Let's take a quick break.
Are you making the tough decision about divorce or in the middle of your recovery? Well, I have a few books you will want to read. Don't navigate one of the hardest journeys you will face without a roadmap. Visit toddturner.com/books to find the helpful guide you can keep with you during this time of decisions and healing. toddturner.com/books. Now back to the program. They do. So the point is you can love anybody. And so when you come into a culture where like, yeah, but I'm going to choose my refrigerator, I'm going to choose my job, my career, where I live, whatever, then you're going to take the same attitude with a spouse.
So I think the key is what you said there is you can love anyone. So I am fascinated and I've talked a lot and I'm like in this whole, post-divorce reimagining, like what do I believe? What do I want in marriage? The phrase in love is not in the Bible. It's not even in the Song of Solomon. Sex is in the Bible, everything else, beauty's in the Bible, but like not the phrase in love. So I'm like, I think my problem, and I think a lot of women's problem is that you want the like butterflies. You prioritize at least those romantic feelings, those in love feelings, but they go. And I've read a lot of books. There's infatuation period lasts 12 to 18 months. And a lot of people get engaged even in that period. And then it fades when you're married and you're like, oh no. So I do think I do think you could be happy and love someone, even in an arranged marriage. I really believe that, especially when you're a Christian, because your true soul, like fulfillment, is coming from the Lord every day. So it's not that the other person doesn't matter, but your cup is full, right? So I do think it's culturally, I think that there's just been too much emphasis in love and the feeling. Like, if love is a feeling, if you just, it was like Mel Robbins, she's like, if you're dating someone who believes love is a feeling, run. Marriage, I've heard, is falling in and out of love with the same person for the rest of your life. And I wouldn't have liked hearing that or even really believed that 20 years ago. I was like, where's my soulmate? Like, ultra romantic, like fairy tale fed, like really, I don't know. So I feel like that was off balance, but I think there's a place for that. God gave us those feelings of being in love, or however you want to call it, right? That, like, that
It
feeling.
can be at least that honeymoon.
Yeah.
I don't mean literal honeymoon, but the honeymoon phase of meeting somebody in the butterfly effect. I think it is bonding. Like, it is like, it does make you, oh, I'm going to lean into this person versus this person because you're attracted. I agree. I do not want to go down this road of the sex road, but it does play here because if the argument is, I'm happy, I have my friends, I'm satisfied, I'm a little lonely, and sex. Well, if you're like, well, if you can get all of it and you get the sex outside of it, then you're like, well, why do I want to have somebody in my way? I like my house this way. Like, no one's doing the things I hate. And so is sex another criteria that makes us make bad decisions or not make decisions? Because we're like, oh, well, I'm already knocking, that checkbox is already being checked. I don't even have to factor it in.
Yeah. And that's why I think, there's a lot of schools of thought of real Christians that have different opinions on whether sex is right or wrong after marriage, or even before, sex before marriage, sex outside of marriage, put it that way. Yeah. But I do think if you're of the school where it is reserved for marriage, maybe God made it that way because it makes you not settle, or maybe like really be sure and really commit. Because I do think that sounds sad, of just a bunch of houses with single people living in it that don't live together, that don't share memories, that don't wake up and make coffee for each other, like, oh my gosh, running into the other room. I'm like, did you see that on Fox News? Like, that's to me what I want. It's just like sharing the mundane, stupid, ridiculous parts of life. Like, I do think it's like sad to think about, well, I'm getting my sex here and we go out on our dates, but I still have my things. He doesn't screw up my house and I can sleep in without him nagging me. To me, that would breed people that are like a little too insular and self-absorbed and have it my way all way. And I don't think that's just good for humanity. I don't think that's good for like our evolution of like souls.
No, I totally agree with you. But with that said, I'm going to play a little bit devil's advocate. The older I get and the more I look into these things, I do understand they're outliers, but there are real reasons why people have chosen not to marry. Meaning, there are people who say, based on health, based on finances with insurance, like, oh, well, this trust fund stops when I get married, or what, my kid has this insurance that will not be covered if I don't blankety blank. And then sometimes it's say, listen, I do want a companion. Let's go to the zoo together. Let's go on a vacation together. Let's have dinner every once in a while. I'll live my independent life. You live yours, but let's sort of commit to one another that you're our eternal plus one. I've seen that happen.
I have a lack of faith, though, when I hear you say, okay, the trust fund's going to go, or my kid's insurance. Those are all things that the Lord can provide and overcome in every possible way. Like, how many of us could sit here? I've always said I have the biggest testimonies in my financial life because it's so tangible. It's like, you can't even, so I feel like whenever that, I understand that. And at this point of my life, I can't even believe my spirit can align with the idea of, I could see why people stay alone. Like, I could see it. I never, ever would have said that. So I get what you're saying, but I still think when it's right and it's God honoring and God guides you and you find your person or whatever, I do think everything is surmountable. I don't think there's any worldly reason where it's still like trumps the union of a soul for the rest of your life. But,
yeah, no, I don't
coming out. She's still in there.
Yeah. I don't disagree with any of that. I also think it's interesting too. I wrote this down in my notes, so I don't even remember exactly how I wrote it, but here's my attempt to remember. And that is, I don't know, there's something to being young, dumb, and naive.
Yeah.
This idea we fall in love and we're going to build our career, build our family. Everything feels telescopic
Yes.
and new and possible. And as you
Yes.
get older, it's yes, you can get more jaded, but you can also, just because you're wiser, you've seen things.
Thank God.
Thank
Yeah.
God. No, it's actually really
So much
good.
better. Oh, praise the
But
Lord.
then it's sort of the pessimism of like, now that I'm smart and you
Mm.
see somebody that they snore, you're like, why would I want to live with a snorer? I don't sleep well with snorers. So I don't want to, now I know you snore, I don't want to live that life. Like, where is that balance between just
I
being
know. Me and
smart?
my co-host of the podcast duke it out because her number one thing is I don't ever want to share a bed with a man. They snore, they move around, they're hot. She loves her bed. She sleeps like a starfish. That's all she talks about. And it's just like, okay, but I'm always like, yeah, but there's a lot of eyes in that statement. Are you forgetting like what you can get? Are you forgetting the amount of times you're like, girl, I'm so like, want to have sex? It's just like,
Right.
I'll take some sex with a lot of snoring
Yeah, I'll
any
take the
day, but
snoring.
I mean, there's ways. Or like my mother and her husband, they're in their 70s and they sleep together on the weekends. And then he goes upstairs during the week.
Are you serious?
Yes, and they love each other, but he's
Yeah.
snore, and he
They
acts out.
found their rhythm. They found their
Well, they
rhythm.
found that's the thing. I think there is nothing and I get it. I understand everything you're saying because especially in that first year after divorce, you're like, no one like chasing and yelling at me. And you're like, this is good, right? But it's like I'm always like, but I don't want this to be it. Like, I don't want to be like my whole self. I've achieved everything and Jesus is enough. I mean, Jesus should be enough for everyone, but I feel like unless you don't have the desire for like the sharing, I just think everything is possible. So I'm a Pollyanna. I'm sorry. I hear myself.
No, well, first of all, I'm glad you are. All right, so let's put some meat on this because we may have to have a part 2 for this or a part 3. But let's put some rubber to the road on this. So, what can a woman do? Let's just say somebody has listened to this, a woman, and she is saying, "Yep, I do this. Yep, I probably have a unhealthy lens on." What's the answer to how do you live in the masculine of responsibilities, life, creating the life you want because you're single and you
Yeah.
don't have a choice. You have to pay bills, focus on your career, whatever. And then you meet someone. I guess it's a 2-part question.
Mm-hmm.
When do you start softening your heart? Is one, like, I think that ties into spiritual leadership. I met women who want you to be the spiritual leader on day one, and then I met someone who were like, it's a year down the road, they still aren't going to let you do it.
Yeah, there's a couple different logs in the fire there. So, in terms of what you're saying first, like, how do I soften my heart? I don't think you should date until your heart is softened. Like, I think you should just forgive. I think forgiveness is huge because I feel like if you're like, oh, this guy robbed me of my freedom. I mean, if you really forgive that other person and then forgive yourself, which no one talks about, which is such a huge part of divorce, especially if you divorce with shared children. I could go on and on. So I feel like I don't think it's not fair to the other person and it's not fair to yourself to like, and I've done it. Like I've actually been divorced twice. So get the prize there. And I've done divorce, post-divorce, completely the wrong way. And now I feel like I'm really doing it the right way. So I feel like I have authority where I'm like, I understand and I have empathy and I've done it the wrong way in every way you could even possibly imagine. So like to that woman listening, it's like, don't then just be lonely, like just sit there and cry. But there's something so cathartic and freeing and healing. Like only a couple months ago, I've been divorced 9 months now, only until like a couple months ago, did I not cry reading my Bible and just sat and I would listen to a worship song and bawl. But it felt, and then it's done. And I was always scared to do that before, but your heart, that's what's going to soften your heart. You're letting God rethread it and literally just walking through what went wrong. Wow, that really hurt. Wow, I blocked that out. I mean, this is not fun, but it's
it's a hard place
I don't think you should. I think the answer is you should not date because it's hard enough to date. Then if you're having like trauma that still hasn't been resolved and then you're transferring things over to that other person, forget about it. So,
no, I totally agree with that. It's hard because the same people are unhealthy. They're the ones who don't listen to you about don't dating because they're trying to fill the hole or create the world they want.
Totally. It's understandable.
I'm going to double down on what you said because I'm 7 years divorced, not 9 months, 7 years. And I just now have had my come to Jesus moments. Like I really have just been bawling on the floor now because I realized Lord, I've been doing it wrong. I've been looking wrong. I've had the wrong lenses on. I've tried a couple of relationships that I was really serious about. Like, I really want this one to work. And in my mind, I would have done anything to make it work. Like, I don't feel like it's my fault they didn't work. Like, I really was all in and they didn't work. And I just got so frustrated. And then I realized, all right, Lord, you and I have got some wrestling to do. And I've been wrestling with him. Like, Lord, I really want a partner. Like, I really believe I want to do the things that get a partner, maintain a partner, and I want to treat her well. And that's a 7-year reset, 7 years. So it's never too late to get it right.
Yes. Amen. Yes, exactly. And I finally come and I was like, oh, I wonder if you'd be comfortable or willing to share any of those insights where you were going wrong or not. And it's fine if not, that'd probably be really helpful because I think a lot of people are going through what you just have come through and are going through. I have finally come, and this is, I feel like, I can't even believe I'm saying, I still feel like, am I being no, I really believe this because it's so foreign to my nature. And it's amazing what God can do. Like, I'll probably start crying if I'm like, it is his kindness and patience and mercy. I don't know if you can really fully get in a way of walking through divorce with the Lord. But for me, it's like, I finally came to a place where, okay, Lord, even if it's like I'm 70 walking down the aisle, I am going to do it your way. I'm trying not to go on the apps. Haven't done it in 9 months. I can't even believe it because I'm a dater. It's like, okay, like I believe I'm going to have faith. I'm not going to let all my insecurities and fears and the lies of the enemy that I have believing that led me down so many hard roads, so many relationships. I was a closet monogamous serial person to person to person. I'm like, it's so beautiful to come to the end of your rope. I really feel it. And even that is a miracle in itself. Even that, it's like, wow, I'm not scared of getting old. That was, I think, a lot of women. That's a whole other episode. Got to get a man while I look, a certain way. I can't be wrinkled. I don't want to be in a bikini at 65 in Hawaii. Oh God, like just come back, Jesus. Please don't let that be. I'd rather just go to heaven, honestly. So it's like, it is so cool to what you're saying. Okay, it took you 7 years and now you're at this place, but you didn't know what you were missing or what you hadn't realized or opened up, whatever it was. Isn't it crazy? The Lord is just kind. He saw you through that relationship. He comforted you. He was still with you when you were trying to make it work. And it's like, it just gives you so much hope that like, okay, like I might not have a revelation right, or I might not have it all right, or thinking is off, but God knows that. And he's kind, and it will, as long as you follow him, it will. So,
well, I'm going to give you a sort of answer. I know we need to sort of wrap up here, but I'm going to give you a taste of my answer. I met someone who loves the Lord so much that once I saw how they looked at life and how they made their decisions, it made everybody else look horrible. And when I realized that's what I wanted, then I realized how much I was looking at the wrong things before. And when I met this person, I go, that's the wife. That's a wife right there. Oh. And I saw truth. So everything else looked counterfeit.
Wow, that's beautiful, though.
And once I saw it, I go, well, there's the new standard. There's the standard. So that's now awesome. I have a new standard. And that's what made me realize, wait a minute, I was looking at all the imitation stuff and I didn't hold out for the right thing.
Wow. Yeah. Sometimes it's like, so I work with, in my real job, a lot of Christian authors, like authors that I have looked up to, like David Platt is one of them. He wrote Radical, and I idolize this guy, and I work with him. So even if just knowing, I mean, he's married, but it's like, sometimes you're like, okay, the fact that this guy exists is enough for me, right? Like, I don't see him anywhere. They're not on the apps, but it's like, okay, it's hard still, but it's like, okay. So that's sad and unfortunate. Hopefully it's just that God has someone different for you. But it's like, just, that's still so beautiful that like she was able, maybe that was the whole point. And it's like, sometimes the best lessons are the most painful ones.
Right. No, 100%. Okay. First of all, I hope you're willing to have more conversations because I feel like
definitely. I know. I feel like we
walked down so many roads that we could have just kept going on.
We got to talk about sex, Todd, a different time.
We have to go deeper into that.
Well, at least talk about it.
But let's for the people that are listening, I think you identified it. Once you know, and you say a lot of women sort of know they're doing it, they just may not want to address it. But if you have the word independent in your dating app, or you think of yourself of like, hey, I've created the world I want and a man better fit in it correctly, you better go check yourself. Check yourself, right?
Or there's a way of saying something. So I will say really quick, I think women do that because we're scared of appearing like needy and we need a man. And there is a lot of like, we don't want a man to think we're a gold digger. I feel bad for men. I feel like there are women that's like, I just don't want to work, or I want nice things, or they ask the income right away, which is insane to me. But it's like, I think women do that, just to give you guys an insight, sometimes with a good purpose of like, I don't need you. I don't need to take care of you. I know how to do an oil change. I don't need your money. So I would say to the women, maybe there's a different way. Like, I love my life. I'm really fulfilled, just looking for someone to share with. And like the life I've created, I'm so blessed. Like, so there's a way to say something, but I do think sometimes that's misinterpreted by men because of that.
You're right. It can be. Here, I'm going to go one more level, because I think yes, what I said right. Yes, what you said right. Here's another layer on top of it. And that is, I'm going to be vulnerable for a second. One of my things I've been crying out to God for is, as a man, I think women try better than men. So we're all out here independent. And I'm craving the person who can ask me how my day is. I don't need somebody to cook dinner. I've learned to cook. I'm not a bad cook. I don't even mind washing my own clothes. Actually, when people complain about laundry, I'm like, what do you complain? That's the easy. You stick it in the thing, you hit a button. It's not that big of a deal. You fold while you watch TV. Like, I don't understand how that's a problem. But as a man, I don't need a woman for the conveniences. Right. I want somebody to have my back. I want somebody I can go talk to, and I can go to the grocery store and buy something for them. I want to pour into them. I want them to pour into me. And so when I see somebody say they're independent, or even somebody says, if y'all want to, what you said about feeling, needy, I don't care about whether you work or don't work. I want you to have a passion, and then I want to pour into that passion, and I want somebody to pour into me. That's all. And I never see that. I mean, I'm going to use the word never.
Yeah.
Extremely rare to have a woman lead with, I'm a good companion, and I will pour into you if it's equal, right?
Yeah.
That's all I'm asking. That's all I want, is somebody who loves me and to pour into me. That's
Isn't it so funny that we're talking? Isn't that like the most basic statement? And shouldn't that be the assumption for a man or a woman, is like, you just want to be understood and have someone like be your best friend that you have a connection with? It's just so sad that it's like, why is it so complicated? Like,
why is it so complicated?
I honestly don't. I think culture, I mean, that's another thing. Culture. I mean, I have so much to say where we don't say men are operating in their feminine, like if you want to flip the coin, but I do have a lot to say of like, there is the same thing going on with women's hyper independence and all that. With men, you sound like you're able to step up emotionally and be the connection, offer connection and have emotional intelligence. But I do think that's something men haven't been able to do as much. And that's all I hear from my girlfriends. I
agree. So, I feel the same way. I'm a good communicator, and that sets me apart, because I get told that on all of my dates. You know more about me in 2 dates than my husband ever did, because I ask good questions. I actually care. And I hear that.
It's gold. It's literally, I won't stop talking if we talk about that with men.
All right. So men that are listening, what do we want to tell them? It's not like we're only having women listeners today, but I guess I think most of us already know, be careful of somebody who's not willing to lean back in. Otherwise, you're wasting your time as well, because that's just going to be an uphill battle. But I would also tell men that are listening, like, why don't you go be the spiritual, prepare yourself for marriage. That's not just, I own a house, I own a boat, and I've got a good 4K, and there's what I'm bringing to the table. And I ain't bad in bed for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But that's not your criteria to make you a good catch.
Honestly, so I have 3 sons and they're older now, but I'm always like, I would tell men, don't stop or feel bad or reduce or hide your masculine. Because I feel like when a woman is like whole and healed, like, we want that. Like, sometimes I think that's like, you just have to not try as hard. Like, my whole thing with friends that are dating is like, their complaints are, the guy's like, do you want to meet there? Or do you want me to pick you up? Like, do you want to go to brunch after? And it's like, I don't know if they think that makes them sound sensitive, or if they're not healed, so they feel defeated and they don't have enough to give to this chick. Like, I think there's a lot going on there, but it's like, I would just tell men, I think most women, I have a lot of female friends, and I talk to people like the industry that I work in, that's like appreciated. Like, I love that God made you guys that. I can't say y'all made you guys that way. I feel like that's beautiful and needed. I don't think in 100 years from now, we're still I feel like you're really valued and needed, and don't settle for someone that makes you feel bad about that or thinks she doesn't need that. Cause I feel like there's a whole slew of healed women out there that like really can't wait for that.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. No, I like that. Well, thank you for the insight. We did touch on a nerve that's a real thing. This isn't a guess. This phenomenon's happening. It is sabotaging relationships,
Mhm.
potential relationships, and it's creating a lot of dating
Yeah.
frustration. And you can't fix it. What's the old business term? You can't manage it if you can't measure it. And
Yeah.
this is it. You got to know what we're talking about to know how to avoid it or to get to
Yeah, you
plow
have to give
through it.
language to the problem, which is what your show is about, which is neat. It's just like, let's just give words to what we're feeling. Sometimes you just
That's right. That's right. Thank you. Hey, you're better than 90% of people listening.
I'm
You actually
NPR.
know what I'm trying to do here. This is great. Okay, thank you so much for your time. Let's
Thank you.
do another episode. We'll talk soon. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Todd. Take care.
If you like this content, then subscribe for even more resources, fun, laughter, and sound advice for Christians adventuring in unyoked living. Not just divorce recovery, but for brave men and women who are growing and going and living a life on mission. Blessings. Thank you for listening to the UnYoked podcast with me, Todd Turner. Can I ask you a favor? Two, actually. First, rating and reviewing this podcast positively goes a long way to help others find this resource. I get told constantly, I wish I knew of this podcast earlier. Well, you can make that happen with just a simple rating on the podcast app you're listening to right now. Also, when you're done with that, please go to toddturner.com/books and purchase, gift, and review the resources that we have available for those needing help in their divorce journey. It's a lot easier handing somebody a book sometimes than handing them a podcast. And your Amazon reviews really help get our books higher on the chart for others to find. toddturner.com/books. Thanks so much. And please, really, just review the podcast really quick. Thank you.